Hey everybody, welcome to the season finale of Gary Talks. I've been looking at my top 10 list for the year. So far we've looked at my favorite TV shows and favorite albums, so today we're going to look at my top 10 favorite films of 2024. And I have some special guests lined up. The twin emperors from Gladiator II, Joseph Quinn and Fred Hechinger, and the director of Transformers 1, Josh Cooley. Before I get to my top 10, I want to talk about something that I look for in movies. I used to love artsy movies, depressing movies, things like that, but I've found that over the years, maybe as I've gotten older, all I'm really looking for is to have fun. So you'll see that's a through line of all these movies. They're all ones that I had a good time watching, and to me, that's what puts something in my top 10 of the year. So let's jump right in with my number 10 favorite film of the year, Gladiator II. Right off the top, I'll say that Gladiator II is nowhere near as good as the original Gladiator. I'm pretty sure everyone would agree to that. But at the same time, Gladiator 2 was a fun swords and sandals action movie that I had a blast watching on the big screen. The story follows Lucius, now a young man grappling with the shadow of Maximus and the corruption of the Roman Empire. Ridley Scott captures the grandeur of the original with stunning visuals, but also goes over the top in the battle sequences in a way that just made me smile. The cast ranges from decent to great, with many saying Denzel was the best part, but I actually really enjoyed Pedro Pascal's performance. All in all, it was the epic I wanted to see, and it honored the legacy of the original, while also being its own movie. I recently had a chance to talk to two of the stars of that film. Here's my interview with Joseph Quinn and Fred Hechinger. I know it's gotta be hard to follow up a movie to a legendary sequel, but when it's the iconic Gladiator, it's gotta be truly difficult. How did that factor into what you guys did in the movie?
I think there was nothing but reverence and respect for it. I think that we had our own task to achieve, our own kind of direction that we had to kind of take this role, these roles. They serve a different purpose than Commodus did in the first Gladiator. So whilst it was an amazing piece of work, we didn't want to kind of be too bogged down by something that's happened, and that was something amazing that happened. We had to focus on the task at hand, really.
Well, being cast in a movie as big as Gladiator II has to be a life-changing experience. Fred, what was your reaction when you found out you had been cast?
I was driving a car, and my phone was connected to the radio of the car, and I saw the phone call come in from my agent, so I picked it up, and she told me that the news, that they got this role. They're asking me if I wanted to play this person, and I was so flabbergasted and moved and just rocked that I had to pull the car to the side of the road, park it, and properly have a conversation. And then I sat in silence for maybe 20 minutes alone in the car after, just being like, am I in a dream right now? Is this real? That was my experience of it all.
And how about you, Joseph?
I had a missed phone call when I was on the tube from my agents, and I was at Westminster Station. I don't live in Westminster, but my curiosity got the better of me, and I got off the tube and I called them, and then they told me the news, and I walked home from Westminster thinking, wow, what a gift I've been given.
Well, I gotta know, what was your experience like working with the great Ridley Scott?
It's truly one of a kind. There is no one like Sir Ridley Scott. The way that he makes a movie is so full on. It's so immersive. He operates usually 8 to 12 cameras all at once, filming at the same time. He watches them all. He's orchestrating the scene like it's this event.
There is no set like a Ridley Scott set. It's laced with this urgency and a vitality and a sense of it feels important, because it is, but it feels like you're capturing moments that really matter. And in that case, it's unlike any other filmmaking experience I've experienced, and I doubt I will experience again.
So I talked to Denzel Washington and I asked him what could audiences expect from Gladiator II, and he told me that it was a musical. So I guess I should be looking forward to a big song and dance number from you guys in the movie?
Yeah, really good
really
tap
good.
dancing number.
Yeah.
It's epic in every sense of the word. This is the kind of movie that is meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible, with the loudest sound and the most people. Joe was talking about this earlier, how it's about. This is something that's meant to be felt in communion, and the act of going to a theater and seeing it with a community of people who are screaming and cheering and experiencing the full sensorial insanity that is this movie. I just think it's an event.
Next up at number 9 is a movie that I just got back from seeing in the movie theater, A Complete Unknown. I'll start off by saying that while I can appreciate his songwriting, I am not a fan of Bob Dylan at all, and I find his voice to be up there with Dave Matthews as the most annoying of all time. That being said, I loved A Complete Unknown. Directed by James Mangold, the film beautifully captures Dylan's ever-changing personas and most of all, his rock and roll attitude. Timothée Chalamet delivers his best performance, embodying both the confidence and the fragility of someone constantly reinventing themselves. Everyone in the film does their own singing, and for that I'm eternally grateful, as Chalamet's Dylan is much easier on the ears than the real one. Number 8, Godzilla and Kong, New Empire. I know you guys think I'm crazy for putting this movie in my top 10, but as I said at the Best of 2024 So Far episode, it is just a good time, which is really summed up in the scene where Kong gets a superpowered glove to the music of Kisses, I Was Made for Loving You. It's like, what the hell is going on here? But if I had a confused look on my face, I was also wearing a giant smile. I mean, Godzilla likes to take cat naps in the Roman Colosseum. As long as you're willing to turn your brain off, Godzilla and Kong, New Empire is a great time. Next up at number 7, Wicked, Part 1. Even though I am a fan of the Broadway musical, the press tour for the movie, and especially star Cynthia Erivo's constant victimhood, made me want to dislike Wicked. But I still loved it. It was simply a magical movie to see on the big screen, and the songs sounded fresh while still sounding exactly as I hoped to hear them. The cast was top-notch, and even though the first half of the story was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, it flew by, and I can't wait to see Part 2 next year. This has been a really strong year for horror films, as I have a couple on my list. The first horror film in my top 10, at number 6, The First Omen. No one was asking for a prequel to The Omen, and then when it was announced, there was no way that it would be very good, right? Wrong. Directed by Arkasha Stevenson, the film is a masterclass in tension building and atmospheric horror, blending classic genre techniques with modern visual storytelling. Set in 1971 Rome, the story follows Margaret, a young American nun in training whose journey into faith turns into a descent into paranoia and terror. Nell Tiger-Free delivers a fantastic performance, with one particular scene being the scariest I've seen in years. The film shines with its stunning period recreation, eerie lighting, and haunting score, which enhances the sense of dread. The First Omen's rich narrative and terrifying moments make it the best entry in the franchise since the original. And now for my top 5 favorite films of 2024. Coming in at number 5, Monkey Man. Monkey Man was sort of unfairly compared to John Wick, and while there are some similarities, Monkey Man is much more of a work of art than a simple action film. Dev Patel's directorial debut is a dynamic revenge thriller that blends gritty action and Indian mythology with emotional depth. The film follows a masked underground fighter seeking justice for his mother's murder while confronting corruption. Patel's portrayal of a tormented hero combines physical intensity with emotional vulnerability, showcasing his range as both an actor and a filmmaker. The action sequences are visceral and inventive, and the cinematography is probably the best of the year. The film's thrilling climax and thematic exploration of faith, revenge, and morality leave a lasting impression. With its visuals and symbolic storytelling, Monkey Man is certainly an unforgettable action masterpiece. Coming in at number 4, Unfrosted. There probably isn't a more divisive movie on my list than Unfrosted, as it seems that most everyone hated it. but I loved it. It was just so off-the-walls brilliant in a way I haven't seen since Weird Al's UHF. Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted is a zany, fictionalized comedy about the origins of Pop-Tarts, blending absurd satire with a retro 1960s feel. Directed and co-written by Seinfeld, the film takes creative liberties, turning the rivalry between Kellogg's and Post into a hilarious, over-the-top cereal war. With an ensemble cast including Melissa McCarthy, Hugh Grant, and John Hamm, the film thrives on slapstick humor and quirky sketches, even featuring surreal subplots like cereal mascots on strike. The humor can be hit or miss, but there was a funeral scene that was so bizarre and over the top, it was at that moment that I knew I loved Unfrosted. Next up at number 3, Transformers 1. I said in my Transformers episode that Transformers 1 was the best Transformers movie ever made, but it's also one of the best films of 2024. It delivers a refreshing animated take on the beloved franchise, serving as a prequel that explores the origins of Optimus Prime, formerly Orion Pax, and Megatron, originally D-16. Directed by Josh Cooley, the film boasts visually stunning animation with an emotionally engaging narrative. Brian Tyree Henry really steals the show as D-16, taking him from a likable best friend to the ultimate villain. The movie embraces its lore with sincerity while modernizing the storytelling, crafting a tale of friendship, betrayal, and the weight of leadership. Action sequences are dynamic and imaginative. Unlike its live-action predecessors, Transformers 1 focuses on character-driven storytelling, and hopefully proves that we don't need no stinking humans to have a fun movie. And here is my interview with the director of Transformers 1, Josh Cooley. My first question is kind of a tough one. We all know what a director does in a live-action movie, but what does the director of an animated film do?
The difference is everybody's seen kind of a live-action shoot, meaning you get a camera, you point it at something, and you get a picture of it. You're pointing a camera at me right now, you get my jacket, you get my shirt, you get my face and glasses, you get the pores in my skin. If we were to do this in animation, we design all of that, all the way, everything down to the pores, down to the cracks in the ground, down to, the style of pants that somebody's wearing. Everything is designed, and everything has to be created, which means there's a million questions every single day. How big are the pants? What kind of material are they made of? Is it shiny material? Is it not shiny? Every single thing you see on screen is a question that a director answers.
Well, you answered those questions great because I really love Transformers 1. How did you come up with the look of the Transformers in the movie?
When we were designing the characters into 3D, the thing that was important to me was that it felt believable. We weren't going for super realistic, like the live action ones, which have to feel that way because you're in a real world. We have an opportunity to do something totally different with this film. Being on Cybertron, which is all made of metal, and in space, no humans, so it needed to have something that just felt different from what we've seen. In fact, I think Transformers 1 takes place millions of years before Earth even exists. So we are early on the timeline for Transformers, and earlier than we've ever seen on screen before.
So, as everyone knows, this is a prequel to Transformers, so we're seeing these characters long before they became Optimus and Megatron and Bumblebee. And I just want to know, how fun was it to come up with these early versions of beloved characters?
It was fun to create these characters, or think of these characters as being their early versions of themselves. And so, with Optimus, we've always seen him as being this big, heroic, stoic figure, and he will eventually become that. But it was fun to show him a little bit younger, have a little bit more of a younger attitude, a little more just shooting from the hip, a little more fun. And Megatron kind of being the opposite, which is he's following the rules, and having the two of them rub against each other was really, really fun to play with. With B, we've always seen Bumblebee as in the live action films as a silent character, kind of like Charlie Chaplin-esque. And we went the opposite direction. He hasn't lost his voice yet, so we made him extremely talkative, and he never stops talking. And the perfect person to pair him up with is Alita, who doesn't take any guff from anybody. And so you've got these great pairs of characters that really play off each other well, and then together, both pairs play together as a foursome.
I know I'm gushing because I really did love this movie, but one of the things I really loved was how funny it was.
There is a lot of comedy in the other Transformers films. When you have a huge robot going to Earth, you kind of naturally have a fish out of water story and something to play off of the fact that a Transformer might not know what other things on Earth are. We didn't have Earth. We just had Cybertron and our characters. So we couldn't do the same type of comedy, and we really leaned into the characters and just their types of characters. What do they know? What do they not know? There's always a lot of fun with characters just not knowing how things work, and then just pairing them up with other characters that do know how things work and don't want to give the other ones the time of day. So it all came out of the characters, what felt right for the moment in terms of them and not just the situation that they're in.
Finally, what was your favorite part of directing Transformers 1?
The crew that I get to work with are so talented. They surprise me every single day. And that's the joy of being a director, is being able to see all these little pieces that are being made all in different areas of the film. And then in my head, I can see how they're all coming together. And then that's what's on the screen. So I love working with all these talented people. They're a lot of fun, and they're like a second family.
Well, as I've said, I loved it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I mentioned earlier that this was a great year for horror, and my number 2 favorite film of the year is the best horror film of the year, The Substance. If you're looking for a bold and grotesque exploration of vanity, ageism, and the dark side of Hollywood's obsession with beauty, then The Substance is the movie for you. The story follows Elizabeth Sparkle, a once glamorous TV star who succumbs to a mysterious drug promising youth and perfection. Her transformation, mirrored by her younger clone Sue, spirals into horrifying rivalry, reflecting Hollywood's toxic beauty standards. The film excels in its unsettling visual style, blending vibrant colors with visceral body horror to emphasize Elizabeth's decline. Demi Moore delivers a raw, fearless performance, while the narrative cleverly balances satire with shocking imagery. The thing I loved most about The Substance is what turned a lot of people off, and that's the final act. The movie goes from a clever metaphor to the best of Cronenberg meets Lynch with some Sam Raimi thrown in for good measure. It's the kind of movie that after you watch it, you can't stop thinking about it. And now for my number 1 film of the year. I wouldn't say this is the best film of the year. It's not like it's going to win the Oscar for Best Picture or anything like that. But it was the movie that entertained me the most, Deadpool and Wolverine. Seeing it on opening day when nothing was spoiled was a magical experience. The action is fast-paced, blending Deadpool's zany antics with Wolverine's brutal, no-nonsense combat style. Director Sean Levy leans into the R-rated zaniness, allowing for over-the-top violence and plenty of adult humor, while also crafting some unexpectedly heartfelt moments. My wife pointed out that it was just a movie of 2 guys fighting each other over and over again with humor that was directed at 12-year-olds. And she's 100% right, which is exactly why I loved it. And those are my top 10 films of the year. Hopefully you guys saw some great movies that you enjoyed, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the season finale of Gary Talks. I want to thank all of you for your support for the show, and while there won't be any new episodes until the spring, I will still have some bonus interviews and things like that coming up on GaryTalks.tv, so be sure and check those out. This was a really big season for Gary Talks as we expanded to television as well as being on the internet, and the views have just continued to soar. We've had over 1 million views of this season, so thank you everyone again for watching the show and supporting the show. We have lots of exciting things in store for Season 3 of Gary Talks, but I can't quite reveal those yet, but the show is just going to keep getting bigger and better. I'll see you guys in 2025, and Happy New Year.
From capes to tapes, Gary's on the case. He's breaking down each scene, every place. On Gary Talks, he's quick with his peculiar wit. From plot twists to the comic strips, Gary's